Welcome to another insightful field visit. Today we take you inside the Adeiza Rabbitry, where we had an engaging and practical session on one of the most important aspects of rabbit farming, health management. In this video we explore common rabbit diseases, the early warning signs every farmer should watch out for, and effective treatment methods that can help prevent losses and improve productivity. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced rabbit farmer, this session is packed with real-life insights that will help you keep your rabbits healthy, active, and thriving. Stay with us as we learn from different practice, experience, and expert discussion right here at Adeiza Rabbitry.
Okay, what are the most common diseases you see in your rabbitry or rabbitry in general?
Okay, most rabbit diseases are gastrointestinal. Yeah, rabbits are what we call hindgut fermenters, and they depend so much on the cecum for digestion and all of that. Okay. So the symptoms or the clinical signs are alike, let me put it that way, but for a few of them you have coccidiosis, cecal coccidiosis, where you start to have the rabbits having diarrhea, and it can metamorphosize to bloating also. You also have mucoid enteritis. It's also, enteritis is just diarrhea, but when you say it's mucoid, that means it's coming out with some mucus. So what that does is it just breaks down the lining of the cecum. The cecum is actually lined up with a little bit of mucus, for easy digestion and peristalsis, let me put it that way. But once you have mucoid enteritis, there's a breakdown of that mucus, so down to the large intestine, coming out through the anus, you find mucus and their poo mixing with each other. So we have mange. Mange is ectoparasitic, meaning it's on the outward part of the body, and you just see the fur is pulling. Epilation, yeah, they call it epilation. And you find it uneven. Rabbits have very even fur. You see it shining and looking all even, but once you have mange, it's very uneven. One side is fuller or filled up than the other side. So mange, cocci, bloating. You also have eye issues like conjunctiva, where the eye tissue is inflamed or infected. So you give gentamicin eye drop for that. Some people give for a duration of 40 days till it's cleared off. You also have sawhawks as pododermatitis, that's what you call it. So sawhawks is actually a major challenge, especially for those wanting to start. They don't get the measurement of the gauge of net easily. These ones we use here is 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch galvanized wire mesh. But some newbies in the business, they start with bigger or more porous nets. So they have issues of weight resting on the mesh, from their hocks or their limbs, both fore and hind limbs. So it comes in grades. There's the first grade, you just see it's just a slight cut, and then it progresses that way, where it progresses to an ulcer. You have those sores and those wounds at the hind limbs of the rabbit. So rabbit diseases are a lot, but those that are predominant in Nigeria are cocci. Then for the dry seasons, like now, you have respiratory issues, where you have snuffles. Snuffles, the rabbit is always coughing and all of that. But you can give medications like tylosin for that. You can give menthol. It contains some little bit of menthol, so it helps with the respiratory tract of the rabbit. And you also have things like pasteurella. I have similar signs and symptoms with snuffles, as the case might be. Yeah.
Okay, which disease would you say is the most dangerous to them?
Okay, all the above I've mentioned, they they have a remedy, but I would say bloating is actually disastrous in rabbits because it doesn't span for quite a long time. You know, you just see it today, it's a little bit dull, it's compact to one side of the cage, and then before you know it, the rabbit is gone. So what actually happens in bloating is accumulation of gas and the cecum and the stomach. So it's not, I won't really say it's easily tackled. Some people give paraffin oil. Over there we have KC bloat, but you know it's not your best bet. So most rabbit diseases, in all honesty, it's best you prevent than you treat. It's best you prevent than you treat. So for cocci, you just, prevention is give excess hay. Once you check the rabbit's regimen for feeding, you find out that hay will amount to about 80% of what they should eat. But you know, we don't inculcate that in most of our farms, not because we don't want to, but farmers have issues having access to hay and asking questions like, what hay should I give? Questions like that. So for bloating, you should always prevent. Hay should be there, and then your feeding ration, you ought to give, for winners they should even eat maybe 100 grams. Then for your dry dose, maybe they can eat 180, and then for your nursing dose or maybe pregnant dose, you could give 240 grams, just to avoid the case of bloating. You always want to check out for quality over quantity. Once your feed is rich with everything essential for growth, you would find them doing well, not necessarily because of the quantity you're putting, but because of the quality of the feed you're giving the rabbit.
So what early signs should a beginner watch out for in a sick rabbit?
Rabbits do what we call chinning. Yes, chinning. They actually have scent glands on their chin. So usually, if you're very observant, they come out in the morning. Once you come out in the morning to inspect them, they come towards the apex of their cage to chin up. So what they do is they are trying to put more like pheromones on the chins. So that shows activeness. That shows their health is top notch. So you should watch out for that. Once a rabbit doesn't welcome you, let me just use the word welcome. Once it doesn't come out to welcome you, once it's not active, there's what they call it has skipped my mind, but there's a tone rabbits make in their cages where they just spread their hind limbs up, to show excitement and all of that. They run around the cages and all of that. I can't remember what that term is called, but you would see it in an active rabbit. So for a beginner, one thing you should be keen on is observation. Know how a healthy rabbit should act or behave, which I just stated. There should be activeness, there should be agility, and there should be that receptive nature. But once you start noticing the fur becoming a little bit what's the word now? The fur is getting pumped up. It's not smooth, it's not laying smooth. Then you have issues. Then you ought to also inspect. One thing a newbie or a beginner should do is inspect the openings, the nose, the anal area, and the reproductive area. For things like coccidiosis, definitely you see a discharge of diarrhea from the anal area, stuff like that. So those are some of the things a beginner should watch out for and take note for.
Well, what about those rabbits that are naturally just quiet and calm?
Yes, rabbits are temperamental. They are very temperamental. Like we humans, we have persons that are outgoing. We have persons that are agile, and it's same for these animals. They are very much temperamental. You find some that are outgoing, they are docile, you can just play with them, rub their fur and all of that. And you find others that are a little bit restrained,
Sure.
So you ought to know whatever number you have, as long as you're passionate about them,
Yes.
you ought to know each one's behavior. Okay, what's going on, what's not going on, and that will help you to be able to tell what's wrong with a rabbit and what's not wrong with it. I won't really call them nocturnal animals, in as much as they can be crepuscular, active at twilight, but they sleep at night also. But most times in the morning and evening are when they run around. They take most of their time to rest in the afternoon. So your period of observation will be those 2 hours, morning hours, and then you have the evening hours. So you check, you observe, you grade their agility, and then you inspect. It helps you to tell which is healthy and which isn't.
So at what point should a farmer take action or call it?
It depends. It depends. For things like bloat, as I said, it's not easily treated, but definitely you call a vet at first sight. They have more experience, but you as a breeder also would learn in your journey with rabbitry and coniculture. But ideally, the way it's meant to be done is you call a vet at first sight of the problem. The only issue with rabbit issues, or the only problem with rabbit issues, is that once it happens to one, there are likely chances that it has happened to the other. So you have to spend more on all of that. So you need to know nitty-gritties of medications, what you need to do. And then you could also call the vet as soon as you can. Yeah, that should be your first response actually. Yeah.